Welcome to another edition of Midnight Cable. I'm Giman.
And I'm Brandon. And in this show we talk about anime that we have watched recently, both new and old.
We apologize for the sudden delay and having no episode last week. We had to acquire some new gear for the set, but we're back now and we're ready to get back to a regular schedule as soon as possible. Anyway, this week we decided to go back to the essential core of anime, something that no one can ever escape from. Cuteness. Or as we'll all like to say, kawaii! Sorry. Anyway, the first anime we watched was Hitoribocchi, a cute, wholesome anime where living life to the fullest without a dark twist this time around.
Yes, and the other anime we watched is Kumamiko, Girl Meet Bears. Also a wholesome and cute anime about a girl living in a village with a talking bear, guaranteed to make you laugh at any moment with only 10 episodes.
Whoa, what are you talking about? Don't you mean 12 episodes?
What do you mean 12 episodes? I only remember seeing, 10.
You know, those last 2 episodes where she goes into this concert where she has to perform as an idol and, then this very tragic event happens and... Okay. Well, let's start with Hitoribocchi then. Hitoribocchi is a story about social anxiety and making new friends and cuteness. The series follows the title character Bocchi Hitori, who, befitting her name, is always alone. She used to have a friend, but the latter broke their friendship after changing schools, making Bocchi promise to her that she makes friends with the entire class she is assigned to. Obviously, her first impression with the class doesn't go well due to her crippling social anxiety. But she is eventually joined by a cast of new friends she is able to make as she slowly overcomes her shyness, and then probably retreating back to her old habits. The circle of life. So, Brandon, what did you think of Hitoribocchi?
Well, to be honest, I think this is a rather decent anime. We enjoy watching it, but at the same time, I feel like it's just your typical slice of life anime that we have watched so many times before with nothing new or unique or anything inherently special about it to make it stand out. My overall feeling after watching it was literally nothing. There was so little of it that is worth remembering. I feel like this is the anime that, it would make you feel good just by watching 1-2 episodes. But then, it's all at the same time, there's nothing bad about skipping it either.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. I don't think there's anything wrong with this show, but it's okay, but that's really all it is. It's neither bad nor is it great, it's just an anime.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I did enjoy some moment of it, the comedic timing at time was on point and I did laugh out loud at certain scene. It just has, good moment, but then there's also a moment where the comedy kind of feel forced, comedy kind of feel, overused too much, and at the same time feel extra cringy because most of it is just circling around Bocchi, social awkwardness.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. I thought that the social awkward scenes were very relatable considering my own struggles during schools to make friends and the portrayal of the main character having this, overly shy nature and not be able to approach people without this huge stage fright is pretty good. But at the same time, I think the portrayal of that is really surface level of kind of approach that it's like, if I were to sum up this whole show's explanation of how they approach this subject is that if you don't approach friends and let them come to you, then you will never be able to make friends, which is almost like if I say the sky is blue and it's like, gasp! I never thought about that before, like you've opened my eyes or like that. Especially when I've seen other shows that have done this content so much better, like Oregairo and many others. And watching this just makes me think of I could be watching those instead. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this show approaching this subject, but I kind of wish that it would have done more than just, center around with the main character instead of since it didn't really expand it upon with other characters.
Yes, let us first start with the main character and her group of friends.
Yeah.
Characters!
So when it comes to the main character, Bocchi Hitori, whose name is a literal pun of Always Alone, get it? That's the title of the show. I think she's a perfect fit for this type of story. I mean, her struggles of overcoming her shyness are adorable to watch. Really fun and cute, and there is a certain type of progression with her as she gets better, but it's really minimal. It doesn't feel that big, but I think she's the most fun character in the show, not just with her wide facial expressions that are always fun to watch, but her interactions with her friends are so wholesome to watch. But I do have to admit that her goal relating to her childhood friend Kai is really confusing. I mean, the idea of that she has to make friends with the entire class or her childhood friend won't be her friend anymore is such an outlandish request, and the fact that Kai even has to go as far as to not even speak to her or even look at her and like that there is a thing called commitment to a promise, and then there is not even being cordial and even being a good friend. I mean, what do you think about this how Kai handles this situation?
Well, I would say that it was rather unrealistic in the way it is portrayed. I mean, if I were to tell you that I'm not gonna be your friend anymore until you might go and make some other friends, I think the reply you would give me is to f off, because as we saw in the show, Bocchi is capable of making friends, and the friend that she makes along the way, the relationship that they have, I feel like it's much more better than the relationship that was shown between Bocchi and Kai. Like, the show doesn't really establish to us, what was their relationship like before, they break up their friendship for this trial. Like, it only gives us like clue and tidbit, like, how, Kai used to be a reliable friend that Bocchi relies on, and how, she cared for her because, she's a crybaby and all, but it was just, like surface level, exposition that, doesn't go anywhere. And I feel like for the most part, Kai is just a plot device type character.
Yeah, pretty much. Although, thankfully, this show is carried out with the other characters. I think the best one after Bocchi is her first friend that she makes, Nako. This sort of really lazy person who doesn't really like to do anything. This really snarky personality who just talks down to anyone. But the way, Bocchi's, enthusiasm, rubs on her, I think it's really adorable and fun to watch, and she's a fun character. I mean, what do you think about her?
I mean, in terms of character design and, the type of archetype that she fit, I kind of feel like she was a bit, generic, and for the most part, what I expect for a show like this, this typical delinquent, mistaking for delinquent type girl. I really enjoy the friendship that she has with Bocchi. I mean, this is the only friendship in the show that actually felt real to me, like an actual friends and friend interact with each other. It's like we're also friends in real life, you and me. We also are oftentimes, butting with each other and, arguing, but at the end of the day, we care for each other and, we say encouraging words. In the same sense, Nako also did the same for Bocchi. She's rather honest and blunt with the way her saying, but, deep down, she's a kind girl, and, she really wished the best for Bocchi to, improve herself. And the show even go deeper into that by trying to establish a drama, misunderstood arc between them by having, her getting angry at Bocchi with the idea that, are you just being friend with me because you're trying to use me as a, object on your way to, fulfill your goal to your, former best friend? I don't like that, and I really like that, dramatic tension between the character.
Yeah, although that does lead to, to this one other character that I like. I mean, there's only 3 characters that I technically like a lot. That being Aru, this sort of vice president of the class, who actually, when she's first introduced, is actually really good, considering that Bocchi comes to her advice and, what exactly could have been wrong, since Bocchi, after all, is very clueless about social situations and she might not always be able to read between the lines and other things, and how Aru is there to support her, even if it's a bit stressful to her, considering that Bocchi is a really stressful person. But later, she turns into this sort of a butt monkey of a character when it turns out that she's this really unfortunate person that Nako just can endlessly make fun of how they have this straight man idiot routine all the time, how who are you calling unfortunate and headbutting her, which is really fun to watch for at least the first 8 episodes, although it does become a bit tiring later. But I kind of wish that, that initial of being a supportive, like a big sister type of character, like providing emotional support and advice, that could have been used a bit more, but I still like her and Nako's comedic relationship.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. Aru is also one of the more intriguing character in the show. I mean, I especially love that she has her own theme song, that she's overconfident about everything, despite being a clueless and clumsy girl. Like, for example, one entire episode where it's just focusing on her wearing her elementary schoolgirl outfit to school. It was funny, I like scenes like that, this tender moment of friendship like that, but just like you said, the comedy is a bit overused, and it felt to me like, in the later half of the show, every moment that Nako and Aru has, with each other was just regulated to this, one running gag that it, has, overused its welcome, and it doesn't feel engaging anymore. But despite saying all that, I still feel like both Nako and Aru are more engaging than the last friends that we can talk about, this ninja girl Sotoka. What do you think about her?
Well, what else can I say other than the fact that she's basically this ninja foreign weeaboo girl who wants to see Bocchi as her master and her as a disciple? I mean, I do find her and Bocchi's antics funny at times, like making paper origami and suddenly running on water like Naruto ran it, like as if you can walk on water. But there isn't that much complexity compared to the 2 other girls' relationships. Well, I mean, there is this indication that there is more to her reason of being a ninja, although the anime never goes much into that because it's probably explored better in the manga. But there is this attempt, and I do say attempt, at sort of a dramatic shift in their relationship where Sotoka suddenly starts to realize that she wants Bocchi to call her as her friend, but she feels like she cannot be both her friend and a disciple, which she talks about to Nako and Aru. But for some reason, none of those 2, while we were watching that scene, were saying the thing that we were thinking at the back of our heads, which was, why can't you be both? Yeah. And none of them even say that or suggest something like that. And the way it concludes, how okay, I'm gonna start calling you friend now, but they still go through the same routine of like a master and a disciple, which I think in theory is sort of a fitting conclusion, that nothing has changed much, that because they're fine the way they are, but they're at least acknowledged as friends now. But it just felt so really clumsy, and at the end of the day it felt completely pointless.
Yeah, it felt a bit forced. I mean, usually when it comes to slice of life anime like this, you want to have unique character, you want to have, some sort of a drama for them, to give character progression. And while, Bocchi character progression is quite steady, that whole fake drama with, Sotoka was, totally unnecessary. I mean, it felt like to me that the author was like, which archetype and which unique and quirky trait I can give this girl. Okay, let's make her a ninja. Yeah, what drama story can I make to make this character engaging and believable? It just adds unnecessary stake and drama to an otherwise simplistic show. And I kind of wish that the show would remove some of that time that it was spent on that whole dramatic arc, and shift the focusing on having Bocchi making more friends, or shift focus on the fourth character we're gonna talk about, this Kako girl. I mean, she has a rather intriguing personality and philosophy to her, wanting to be stronger, and she doesn't want to make friends because she believes that having friends will weaken her as a person. I find this girl to be the most interesting out of the bunch, but it's a huge shame that the show didn't spend that much time on her.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've seen these type of characters before, who want to rely on their own, not just with high school life, but also in some serious stories like shonen, seinen, and any kind of adventure story. But when it comes to her character, the fact that she only talks about, it's relying on herself instead of relying on other people, it's played for comedy, that she's comically serious. That, I mean, there is even that one scene that she smiles a bit like that. Oh, I'm still not strong enough. I like that. I guess just like with Sotoka, there probably is a big more explored reason in the manga which the anime doesn't explore upon. But I guess there could have been a chance for it to be sort of a conflict in this season. I mean, assuming that there is a second season, by having more focus on her instead of Sotoka. But other than that, she's just there to act funny in contrast to Bocchi's rather zany antics. But I think we can get a bit more detail into the arcs by actually talking about the basic plot structure.
Story!
So just like any slice of life story, each episode focuses on different characters and their relationship to Bocchi. There are occasionally some episodes that have 2-3 smaller stories, sometimes showing the same character but from different perspectives, or some side characters who are not important enough to be included in the full episodes. They get this, one segment that are in relation to the main character. But when it comes to the plot, there isn't really much to say, considering that there is no plot to begin with, and there isn't really a clear end goal in mind.
I mean, the show is basically just a huge collection of social artwork moment, funny scene, cute girl doing cute stuff, hijinks, mixed matches with each other. There is a tiny bit of drama, and I put air quote on the drama, because most of them are just resolved rather quickly, and like there was no stake at all to them. I feel like most of the situation happening here in this anime is just to build up for jokes and comedy and more cuteness from the girls. It feels to me like a bit of a waste of opportunity, because I actually expect more when it comes to this type of premise, and especially when it comes to the character progression. Bocchi, during the whole course of the show, did manage to make friends, but she didn't learn anything about overcoming her lack of self-confidence or her anxiety. She first started out vomiting in her table with no friend. She ended the anime season with the same vomiting on the table, except now she has 5 or 6 friends. It just feels like I kind of want to see her grow more as a character. I mean, it could have ended in such a way that at the end scene there, when she's struggling to spell out her name like that, the other girl would just, say encouraging words like, yeah, you can do it, Bocchi, yeah, you can do it. And then she managed to, say out her name like that, just to, show to the audience that, she actually makes some improvement.
Yeah, pretty much.
But at the end of the day, this is a slice of life anime, and do we really need to be overly critical and overanalyze an anime like plot like this? I mean, this is just slice of life anime that you just sit down at the end of the hard work day on a Friday evening, you watch 1 or 2 episodes and you feel good about it, and then move on. Like, is there really much a need to be critical about it. Like, I mean, if you are gonna do it, like, why the hell are you watching a slice of life anime like this in the first place? And I don't really want to come up as, internet armchair critics here, even though we are sitting on an armchair. But like, I mean, I expect more from this anime and it just doesn't deliver. So it just feels a tad bit frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a point in a sense that we might give this bit too much hard time, considering it's not trying to be anything deeper than it actually is. I mean, it's just a cute show trying to have fun with itself, and it's not like it's like Ken Urobushi or Nishio Ising or someone else's work, who tries to have some philosophical or some deeper meaning to it. But at the same time, I kind of feel like that since the show tried to have this sort of an end goal and stakes in mind, despite having no real stakes to begin with, and then also undermining its entire progress with the last episode, that it kind of brought it on itself that, it tried to be something more that it could actually be.
Yeah, and it only just end up being just an average show. And not only just average in it when it comes to character and story, it's also average when it comes to animation and music.
Yeah, we should probably talk about them.
Music and animation.
If I were to give one word about the animation, the visual, character design, and music for this anime, is that it is serviceable. I mean, it is not bad, but at the same time, it's not good either. I mean, this is just your typical run-of-the-mill slice of life budget, type, show that, just have your average animation and music. So there's not really much to hate, but then at the same time, not really much to praise about.
Yeah, I can't really much add to that. I guess the only thing I can talk about when it comes to music and animation is to talk about the opening and ending. I thought the opening was technically generic, but serviceable. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. I mean, it's fine as it is. It's cute fun with some, rainbow bridges, like in some of My Little Pony like that. I'm always fond of that. But I think I like the ending slightly more because it did go extra effort by including evolving visuals, with the cast expanding as Bocchi's making more friends and acquaintances. But I think the only musical and visual moment on this show that stuck to mind that could come close to being memorable was this one episode which has sort of become an internet meme, where they have this special teaching class where, Bocchi is having this ha 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 class, and then the episode ends on this, ha 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 song, which is really cute and adorable, and I think that was really the highlight of the entire show.
Yeah, the same for me too.
Conclusion.
All in all, I think that Hitoribocchi is a rather decent and okay show, but at the same time, I feel like it wasn't really made for us. I mean, we have seen so many type of slice of life anime before, and those other show has something more unique and memorable to them. Like if you want a show that has a lot of entertainment value and fun time and way cuter, cute girl doing cute stuff. Like, you can watch Bofu instead. Or if you want to watch a show with actual drama and, psychological horror, you watch School Lives instead. Like, or if you want something that has a balance of both an actual relatable story, you can just straight up watch Origairu. So at the end of the day, I feel like, this show is just so average and so bland that, it just doesn't resonate much to me and you at all. But I have a feeling that mostly it's just me, the fact that we are jaded about this, and the fact that it is not really our style of anime that we often watch. And I think actually there are people who will end up enjoying this show much more than us.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that this show is bad or anything, it's just that you and I tend to avoid watching stuff that is too average because you know that there is always gonna be good and bad stuff, and you can't avoid bad stuff. I mean, there's not actually nobody should avoid that much things. I mean, it's a good thing to try to explore new things that. Not just falling back into watching what everyone watches, maybe watch something that somebody has overlooked. So eventually you're gonna encounter some bad stuff. But even when you encounter a bad stuff, it does leave you something to remember by, the same way really good stuff remembers, even if it's something unpleasant. I mean, as much as I hate Fairy Gone, it did, you know, leave me something to remember by because how so hilarious it was that I don't remember any of the, you know, good moments that I forced to think it was good, but the really over the top moments I do with that because how ridiculous it was. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the good and bad stuff, any stuff that is middle of the road, or should I say average, I feel like personally that anything that doesn't have anything memorable or something that stands out or something that feels like it's just an industry standard feels a bit meaningless to us, which sounds a bit harsh. But I think when it comes to shows like this, everybody needs this sort of, you know, cute and fun feeling to fill their hearts until it's ready to burst, you know, and like that. But when it comes to us, the hole inside our hearts is, you know, become shaped in a way that only certain shaped and type of cuteness can fit it. That we, not everything can really abuse that much anymore. But I think everyone else, you know, general audience will be able to enjoy it much more than we do. So, like you said, it's just not for us.
Yeah. Speaking of filling up holes. But speaking of anime that actually left a huge hole in our dark heart, and you know, it's so bad that we can't even forget it, we're gonna talk about Kumamiko next in part 2. So that is it for part 1 of our review discussion with Hitoribocchi. Well, thank you for, you know, watching it with us, and you know, we see you soon, right after these messages.
Thank you for watching part 1 of our discussion. If you're interested of the other anime we talked about, please click the link for part 2, which also includes our recommendations. I'm Giman, and I'll see you soon enough. To be continued in part 2!